about short squeezes. And I've been following GameStop, and I noticed that today GameStop stock has actually gone up just a little bit. But this is after the stock pretty much was left for dead. After the dust has settled, GameStop is now reducing itself back to what it was before the whole Reddit rebellion, which was a pretty worthless stock. But it's not completely worthless. It's up to $104 right now, and it's gone up about 15% since this morning, which means somebody is still buying this stock at this insanely inflated price. But that's okay, because I made my money, and the more that they buy, the more I can actually make more money from this. Why is that? Well, because I have a PhD in finance and I know how to get around in a messy market. But anyway, I want to talk about the short squeeze, and I want to share with you a really disturbing story about an epic short squeeze that occurred long before GameStop. GameStop is not the first time that a short squeeze has occurred in the market. GameStop is not the first time that the little investor got pissed off at the Wall Street experts. GameStop is not the first time where there was an economic bloodbath that occurred because people decided to inflate a stock price to unsustainable levels. GameStop is not the first time that you have had what basically amounts to a type of class warfare that you've seen borne out in the whole conversation about Robinhood and Reddit and the SEC and Melvin Capital and everything else. So I'm going to break this down for you on the Black Financial Channel. If you could, please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. We're going to get started right now. Hey, what's going on? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. So I want to talk about short squeezes and this whole GameStop thing and kind of put it into context. A lot of times when things happen, we think it's the first time in history it's ever happened. And sometimes we forget that human beings were here before we were born, that before we got here on this earth, there were other people that also wanted money, that wanted power, that fought battles and had all kinds of things happen to them. And so in order to understand what's going on with GameStop and this short squeeze, and I've been talking about this for the last few days because it's been really interesting to observe, because a lot of the economic theory that I studied in graduate school is being played out right before our very eyes, and it's really exciting. I thought that I would go back to actually a short squeeze that occurred, and a pretty epic short squeeze that occurred with a company called Piggly Wiggly. There was a grocery store called Piggly Wiggly that was really big in the early 1920s. Does anybody know about Piggly Wiggly? Give me a yes or no if you know about Piggly Wiggly. I see some of your questions in the chat. I just want y'all to, I just have to warn you, I got really bad ADHD. So if I start answering questions, I'm going to totally get off topic, and then you're going to get mad at me because I'm going to be talking about everything under the sun. You have no idea what it's like to walk around with this brain that is constantly talking to me in my background, in the back of my head, and saying, oh, talk about this, talk about that, talk about this, talk about that. So I got to stay focused, y'all. So I need y'all to help me stay focused. All right. So forgive me if I don't answer your questions. It's because I want to stay focused. Okay. So Piggly Wiggly was an interesting, highly innovative grocery store. They actually were one of the first grocery stores to allow you to actually go to the store and buy your own groceries. A lot of people don't know that. Before 1920, you would go to the grocery store, hand your grocery list to the clerk, and the clerk would go get your groceries for you. So the Piggly Wiggly created this highly innovative process of allowing people to, oh my God, actually shop for their own groceries, right? So you take it for granted now, but there was a time where it had to be invented, and the Piggly Wiggly founder was one of the people that actually got this started. So let me read some of this to you about the Piggly Wiggly short squeeze, and I want you to compare this to what's going on with GameStop and Robinhood and the Reddit rebellion and everything else. And then really one of the big conclusions that you want to walk away with is that it ain't gonna stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Wall Street's going to always keep coming back. Wall Street's going to always come back and get their money, because investors always know how to go get paid. So nothing, ain't a damn thing changed. Nothing's changed. You know, young people who think, oh yeah, this is it. We've really shifted the paradigm, and that old day is over. The old guard is gone. No, you're not the first group of young people to come along and say that you've changed everything forever. I mean, sure, of course, you're making some changes. Don't get me wrong. Every generation of young people do something different. But I remember when we were young, when we were in our 20s, you know, which was a little while back, we also were the young generation that was going to change everything, and the old people need to go out and blah, 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 blah. And yes, some things we changed, but some things didn't change at all. A lot of young people, surprise, surprise, young people eventually become old people. So in 20 years, your kids will be looking at you and saying, "Oh, you've never known what it's like to be 20 years old, so you don't understand me, mom." And that's what's going to happen. It happens to everybody. That's what it is. But with that said, let me read some of this to you about the Piggly Wiggly short squeeze and how this relates to what happened with GameStop. A great way to understand the present is to study the past. That's really important. So hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. And by the way, the Black Wealth Bootcamp, we meet tomorrow night at 8 p.m. If you want to join, feel free to go to that URL on the screen, blackwealthbootcamp.com. So according to Barron's, here's what the article says. Long before GameStop, there was Piggly Wiggly. In 1923, the supermarket company, which still does business in the South and Midwest, was at the center of a short squeeze morality play that echoes the recent frenzy around GameStop. As with GameStop and other meme companies like AMC Entertainment, Piggly Wiggly was being sold short by several big Wall Street investment firms. This aroused an unexpected popular backlash stirred by a resentment of city slickers getting rich off the yaps or the little guys. There was a sense of triumph when investors fought back and put the squeeze on the shorts. New York speculators, crowed one newspaper, quote, made them pay through the nose. The Piggly Wiggly shorts got crushed, much as Melvin Capital dropped 53% in January after doing the short squeeze on the short on GameStop, chiefly on its GameStop downside bets, but that wasn't the whole story. While there was some big winners, there were also big losers. None bigger than Piggly Wiggly's founder and president, Clarence Sanders. Quote, after working a sensational squeeze on Piggly Wiggly, Barron's reported at the time, the Memphis grocer found that his quote-unquote victory had cost him about $3 million and control of his company. It also tarnished Sanders' legacy. So in that example, the original Piggly Wiggly short squeeze, one big difference between the two is that when it happened with Piggly Wiggly, it seemed like it was pretty much one guy who went out and borrowed a bunch of money so he could push the stock price up, right? In this particular case, it's not one guy borrowing a bunch of money to artificially push the stock price up. It's a bunch of guys borrowing money to push the stock price up. You know, it's a lot of the guys on the Wall Street Bets forum who sort of spread out the pain, which is fine. But even pain when it's spread out is still pain. And I'm going to explain why this is pain and why you can't just cheer and when these things happen and assume that it was all good. It wasn't all good. And Melvin Capital wasn't the only victim. And I'm going to explain why. So born in 1881, Saunders worked his way out of poverty to become a retail pioneer, turning Piggly Wiggly into the nation's first self-serving store in 1916. That is, instead of giving shoppers a list for clerks to fill, as was practice of the day, customers walked the aisles and chose their own goods. This sublimely simple concept caught on. By 1921, there were more than 600 Piggly Wiggly stores across the nation, and Saunders' self-serve model is still the norm for supermarkets from Kroger to Walmart. To fuel continued expansion, Saunders in November 1922 announced plans to sell 100,000 new shares in the company. That, combined with unrelated news of a Piggly Wiggly licensee filing for bankruptcy, caused quote-unquote heavy selling in the stock. According to Barron's, knocking the share price down from $30 to $45, that was the consequence of the moves that the owner of the company made. Basically, he was selling a company stock. When a manager of a company pushes their stock price out and says, we're selling stock, on average, the stock price tends to drop because the market is assuming that if you're trying to sell and get rid of it, then it must not be worth what we're paying for it. Right? So selling is a natural downward pressure on a stock. Buying presents a natural upward pressure on the stock, not just due to market mechanics, but also due to psychology. If you're trying to get something and everybody else is trying to get rid of it, then you're going to ask yourself, why are you trying to get rid of it? That's what they in finance, we relate that to what they call lemon theory. Lemon theory says if you're selling the car and you're eager to sell it and you keep dropping the price, that must mean that it's not worth the price that you're trying to sell it for. That must mean that you, as an insider who knows what's going on with this car, has some information that I don't have, which tells me that that car is not worth what you claim that it's worth. So the stock price dropped from 45 to 30. So Saunders cast the issue as good versus evil, asking potential investors, quote unquote, shall good businesses flee? Shall it tremble with fear? Shall it be the loot of the speculator, as quoted in Mike Freeman's Clarence Saunders and the Founding of Piggly Wiggly, The Rise and Fall of a Memphis Maverick? To counter the shorts, Saunders took it upon himself to do the short squeeze. This was not a Reddit forum. They didn't have the internet back then, but Saunders himself said, I'm going to do this short squeeze. So what he did was this. Saunders borrowed $10 million on margin from a number of investors. So he did kind of spread it out a little bit, right? He borrowed money from a bunch of people, but it was ultimately he that was kind of leading things. So maybe you might compare him to the leader on the Reddit forum who said, okay, dudes, everybody, let's go all out and buy this stock, dude. We're going to push the price up, bud, right? Okay, so basically he gathered $10 million from a group of investors, which was a lot of money back then, and hatched a plan to buy up all outstanding shares of Piggly Wiggly, driving the price up. The stock reached $124 on March 20th, 1923, when it was suspended by the New York Stock Exchange. So by borrowing $10 million to push up the price of the stock, Saunders got the price to go from $30 a share to $124 a share. Does that sound familiar? Sounds a lot like GameStop, right? The stock wasn't worth $124 per share, but you can actually create artificial demand. So there was a, quote, wild scramble by the shorts to cover. So all the people that had shorted the stock were trying to buy the stock in order to cover the shorts. Well, when they're covering the shorts, they're buying the stock. Well, buying pushes the price up. So when you're covering the short, you're pushing the price up even further. So Barron's wrote that yet there was less than had been expected. The stock showed a declining tendency after the shorts had covered, and the over-the-counter market for the stock gradually disappeared. In the end, Saunders and his associates were left with practically the entire issue of 200,000 shares on their hands, a large part of which had been accumulated at high prices and no market to sell them. See, that's a problem. That's what you call being caught holding the bag, or that's when I was telling you guys about this, how this was a great big game of musical chairs. Well, when you're the last buyer of an overly inflated stock price, like you're the last dude who jumped in and bought this stock for $124 when everybody knows it's only worth $30. Well, guess what? You've hit the top of the mountain and you get to ride that damn thing all the way down to the ground. You're literally like Bugs Bunny or when Wile E. Coyote the Roadrunner used to trick Wile E. Coyote into running off the cliff, and then he would just fall straight to the ground. Like you're literally stuck in that moment where the coyote knows that he's about to fall 300 feet to the ground. That's where you are when you are that person who went into GameStop and bought that stock at $400. And you got to the party and paid extra money to be a part of the party. And then suddenly the lights go out and the music stops and the police arrive. Guess who's going down? Guess who's going down with the ship? It's going to be you. Remember, GameStop stock was only worth $400 a share because there were some people out here that were willing to pay $400 a share. There are some suckers out here that are mad as hell because they spent $400 a share on a stock that is now trading at about $107. That is the damage that gets done when you see a short squeeze and the artificial inflation of a stock price. When a stock like that is pushed up to $300, that stock is not Amazon. Amazon's $3,000. Amazon's worth damn near every penny of that $3,000. Amazon is like a rock. GameStop is like a balloon. A balloon can pop. You pick it with a pin, it's going to pop and deflate and fall down to the ground. A rock, you can't prick a rock. You can't prick Amazon stock because Amazon stock is not living on a bubble. GameStop is living on a bubble. Don't live your life on a bubble or you will get screwed. So let me tell you how Saunders and the great Piggly Wiggly short squeeze got screwed and why it ruined his life. Before I move on, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Also on the screen, we have financial workbooks and flashcards for your kids in case you want your kids to learn financial literacy so they don't grow up to become economic suckers. Feel free to take a look. They were designed for Black children, and since you're homeschooling your kids, you might as well teach them economics or something they can actually use in their life. Don't teach them a bunch of that nonsense they're teaching these public schools. They're not good for your children. All right, so here's what else Barron says. There were winners in the Piggly Wiggly too, such as the retired grocer from Providence, Rhode Island that Freeman writes about, who bought 1,000 shares at $38 before the squeeze. He expected to use these shares as dividend income. Instead, the retiree ended up selling them from between $96 and $124, making a profit of almost $80,000, which is $1.2 million today. That isn't quite the same magnitude as the gains made by Roaring Kitty, the GameStop investor whose initial $53,000 stake reached a value of at least $48 million. But the reality that some players will turn a handsome profit even as others are ruined hasn't changed over the years. Today, however, instead of one big investor like Saunders being left holding all the worthless shares, there may be many thousands of smaller investors facing financial strain or collapse. As for Saunders, he went back to Tennessee, where Memphis folk still have confidence in him, as Barron's reported at the time, but his various post-Piggly Wiggly ventures, including Kidozo Automat-style stores, met with middling success. He died in 1953, his hopes of becoming the Henry Ford of supermarkets undone by an ill-fated decision on Wall Street. So effectively, what occurred was that when they did this short squeeze, and they pushed the stock price up to the moon, they found themselves 10,000 feet in the air with no parachute. You find yourself literally floating on a bubble of a stock price, and you're standing on top of the damn bubble. So when somebody pricks that bubble, and then reality sinks in, fundamental values start to matter again, everybody sobers up from the party, then you've got the longest way to fall. Because so here's the deal. This is why the short squeeze situation is so dangerous. It's dangerous because the smart people know how to get out fast. You know, Dr. Boyce Watkins, I'm not going to talk about myself in the third person too often, because Alicia says that's a sign of horrible arrogance, and I don't ever want to be an arrogant person, because believe me, the minute you start being arrogant, life will humble you. But let's do that. Let's pretend for a second. Dr. Boyce Watkins, when he invested in GameStop, what he did was he said, okay, I'm going to pop in, but I'm not going to put in more money than I can afford to lose. I'm going to make sure I'm well diversified. I'm going to put my seatbelt on before I ride this roller coaster. I'm going to put on my seatbelt. I'm going to put on a bodysuit. I'm going to make sure I have an armored vehicle in case things blow up in my face. So I buy at 113, and then I immediately, instantaneously sell the call options on that stock, because I instantaneously want to get some of my money back, which will reduce the economic impact in the event that the party ends right after I buy my shares. Right. And then the stock price goes up and up and up. And then as it's going down, it's going below the 113 that I bought it for. So, so right now, my original investment at 113, it technically lost a little bit of money, but because I know my way around stock options, I know how to still get a good ROI on my investment. What a lot of folks don't understand is how momentum trading works. They don't know when momentum is going to reverse. You never know when the party's about to end. There are some day traders who can do this on some limited basis. A lot of them are overconfident right now. They think that they know everything about stock market investing. They think that they're experts at it. And the reason you think you're an expert in many cases is because there's millions of people who think they're experts. Why is that? Well, it's because the whole market has been going up. Everybody is making money. You ain't nothing special at, like Belle Biv DeVoe had that song. Remember that song? I thought it was me who made that girl this way. Anybody remember that? Tell me if you remember that song. Well, no, you thought it was you, but no, it ain't you. She's always a freak. She's giving it up to everybody, right? Like she's everybody is going to her house on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night and having a good time. It ain't nothing special about you. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, live your life, but I'm telling you, the stock market is giving it up. The stock market is as financially loose as you can ever imagine, and a lot of it is linked to the fact that the Fed is pretty much printing money and giving it away for nothing. Interest rates are pretty much non-existent. It's very easy for certain people who are in the investing space to make money. The stock market as a whole is living on a bubble because nobody has anywhere else they can put their money and actually get a decent ROI. That's why the stock market is bubbling. That's why crypto is bubbling. That's why real estate is bubbling. And I encourage you to position yourself on the bubble in a way where you can benefit, but also make sure that you're very careful, because almost all bubbles eventually pop. As I told you when the GameStop thing started, I told you it was going to end badly for some people. It's getting pretty bad right now. But the thing is that this whole market's going to end badly to some extent. There's going to be a big crash. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be messy. So while the getting's good, you store your nuts for the winter so that when it goes down, you'll have two things in place. One, you'll have protections against the downside, which comes through healthy investing and diversification and being very careful about where you put your money. But also you'll have some knowledge on how to benefit even when the market's going down. Right? Good investors know how to make money in any environment. That's why these Wall Street guys, sure, they took a hit. They lost a lot of money. They're not stupid. They're not going to let this happen again, but they're probably making money right now you don't even know about. Immediately, they took in the information. They said, okay, this whole internet thing appears to be moving the markets. So suddenly they started purchasing services that track internet activity so they can figure out how to catch the next GameStop situation before it emerges, so they'll know where to put their money. Smart investors know how to make money in almost any economy. They know how to make money under a Democratic administration. They know how to make money when the Republicans are in office. They know how to make money all the time. So black people, if you want to be smart with your money, if you want to be a winner, then learn how to win under all different kinds of conditions. Don't think that some external force is going to decide whether this is your chance to win or if you're going to have to sit on the sidelines and lose. You're not a loser. You're always a winner. So I want you to type the word winner in the chat. If you hear what I'm saying, type the word winner, because that's what you are. And I want to see you win. I want to see you make money. All right. So I got to go. Alicia is taking my big fat butt to the gym. I need to go work out. So hit the thumbs up button before you go. Please hit the thumbs up, share, and subscribe button. And also my Black Stock Market program is right there. That's the URL. The first month is free. You get access to my portfolio and the stocks I'm buying. Also, you get access to a ton of training that I have. And you can also send me questions and I answer your questions directly. Just all kinds of great stuff. And also, if you don't like it, you get your money back. So, but we don't have to give refunds because everyone loves it. So feel free to go to the blackstockmarketprogram.com and take a look. The first month is free. So have a good day, everybody. I hope that this helped you, and I will see you soon. Talk to you later. Peace.